Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Nordic Block Podcast. It is Tuesday, February 4th, 2025. It is episode number 36. I am your host here at Nordic 97 with my other host, LeBlock James. LeBlock, we got a shitload to talk about today. We got a lot to talk about.
Yes, sir. Yes, it's going to be a long one.
Yes. So let's just hop straight into it here. We're not going to, do anything at the beginning or anything like that. So many trades, so many signings, so many things outside of that we're going to get into. But we're going to start off with what I think is the biggest trade of this past week. The New York Rangers have acquired forward JT Miller from the Vancouver Canucks, along with defenseman Eric Brandstrom and defenseman Jackson Dorrington. And Vancouver got forward Philip Grubauer, defenseman Victor Mancini, and a conditional 2025 first-round pick, which is top 13 protected. We will get into that first-round pick and where that went in a little bit. But LeBlanc, initially, what were your thoughts on this trade?
Here's the thing. I think the immediate reaction was that Vancouver got ripped off, which I kind of don't see. I think Vancouver got, especially what they did later, which we'll get into later. I think Vancouver did very well. Their backs were against the wall. They had no leverage. I think people don't understand that. They had zero leverage in this deal. And they still ended up with a good young roster player in Philipp Grubauer who just probably get his career back on track in Vancouver. And they got a good defensive prospect. I think they did pretty well.
We have been saying for a lot of time that, whenever you trade a superstar, well, I don't want to consider Miller like a superstar, but whenever you trade a star player, you usually lose the trade. In a sense, right now, I think the Rangers get a better player. They win in the current term. But if the Rangers miss the playoffs, then that is a pretty awful look for this overall trade. You are making this deal to make the playoffs this year. And honestly, I think after this year, again, we talked about at the beginning of the season how there might be some huge shakeups to this Rangers roster as it is. And they go out and get a guy like Miller who's on a more long-term deal. I still think that theory of if they lose early on in the playoffs or get bounced again, I think their window is closed. I think this is the last year for them to contend. I don't really think Miller changes it. Right now, yes, you win the trade. You get Miller. You get two good depth defensemen, one of them a prospect. But still, I think that you have to make the playoffs for this to look like a good deal on the Rangers' end.
Yeah, it's last dance kind of vibes with the Rangers. I want to get into Miller. Once again, Miller's a great player. He's also 31 years old. You also take on his full contract. And as we go down the road, Miller's not... Miller is the best he's going to be right now. He's not getting any better than he is right now. So you have that player who's going to slowly kind of regress, I feel. No disrespect to JT Miller, he's a great player, but as long term, I think the Rangers lose this trade.
Well, right now, I think Miller is still a very good player coming off of that 100-point season. But as I said, you got to win now. Down the road, that deal's going to look terrible. And I think Vancouver, in that sense, hit it out of the park. They're able to go out and get another, good player, which they did. We'll get into that in a second. I think that Hedl, in my eyes, is injured. Hopefully he's been injured a lot in the last 2 years. Has been playing, I think, mostly healthy this year, which is good to see. So we'll have to see, who wins this trade, really. But I think the Rangers win it right now, and the Canucks probably win it in the longer term. And I'll also say this, too. Elias Pettersson needs to get back to Elias Pettersson form.
Yeah. With Miller being sent out, Petey, you don't have any excuses anymore. This isn't, you need to get back to what you had last year, over 100 points last year. It's all the weight's on Pettersson's shoulders now that Miller's gone.
So there was a stat that was brought up, and I thought it was very interesting. You're gonna have to give me a second here to try and pull it up. So it's since the start of the 2024 calendar year and the overall Vancouver Canucks scoring. So number one is Quinn Hughes, believe it or not, with 106 points. Then JT Miller with 90 points, and then Pettersson is third on that list with 79 points. I need to see more from Pettersson. He just hasn't been at the level that I think he can get to. Again, in 22-23, people forget that Pettersson put up 102, 103 points. The year afterwards, he was really good up until he signed his contract, then really teetered off. I think one of the things that we mentioned in the playoffs was that you needed more out of him. He only had like 6 points. And then again, it continued on to this season where he's really struggled. He's kind of, I don't want to say he's like blamed JT Miller, but I think that, with him, like I need to see him get back to that 100-point level that he was at 2 years ago.
Yeah, and you look at him in the playoffs last year. Yes, he did have a significant knee injury that impacted his play.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, you got to get back to form on this one. And Vancouver as a whole needs to play better. They need to play better as a whole unit.
Yes, I agree. And to be honest with you, like they really aren't like that bad off. I think right now, in the wild card race right now, they're literally only 2 points back of a playoff spot. They were in a playoff spot a couple of days ago, so like all they need to do is just go on a win streak, and bam, you're in a playoff spot. So it's right there for them to take it. And honestly, they're only 3 points back of Los Angeles for third place in that division. So hopefully, with the departure of Miller and with the new acquisition of Marcus Pettersson, Elias Pettersson will get better. And that's the funny part. There are now three
of them, yeah.
Same team. Good thing Miller got out of there when he could. So, going over the other trade, Marcus Pettersson and Drew O'Connor were traded to the Vancouver Canucks. In exchange, the Pittsburgh Penguins got forward Danton Heinen, defenseman Vincent Desharnais, forward Melvin Fernstrom, and a 2025 conditional first, which is the Rangers pick that they got in the Miller deal. LeBlanc, I got to be honest, like, if there's any winner in this trade, in any of these two trades, I think it's the Penguins. Yeah. They get a first round pick that is likely, like if the Rangers make the playoffs, then it could be a later pick, but it's likely going to be like a 14 to 17.
Yeah, I say 14 to 17 for sure.
And even if it's top like 13 protected, like that slides to next year. And we were talking about earlier that the Rangers next year could be bad. So, and it's not protected next year. So I think Pittsburgh wins this deal right now when you look in terms of that.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Pittsburgh real quick. Like they trade away Marcus Pettersson, who was going to get traded regardless of his deadline, and I don't think he would have re-signed regardless. You got a good like third to fourth liner in Drew O'Connor, who I'm a big fan of Drew O'Connor's game. He puts up good numbers when needed to, and he's pretty solid in his defensive game. Yeah, and you get back for a first round pick, which you just said that's like honestly, like Pittsburgh is doing what Pittsburgh needs to do. They need to get assets. And you get Danton Heinen back, who's a familiar face to Kyle Dubas. He was in Pittsburgh, I think, last year or 2 years ago. I'm not sure.
Heinen? 3 years ago, I think, at this point. Hang on a second. It's been a little bit. Heinen has not been a fit in Vancouver. Just it's pretty clear. Desharnais especially, like they were talking about moving him. It's kind of it was 2 years ago. Heinen played for the Penguins in 22-23.
So a familiar face goes back. Kyle Dubas loves getting familiar faces back in trades. Remember the Gento trade last year, bringing back Michael Bunting.
Yep.
Yeah, but now Pittsburgh has 2 first round picks to play with this draft, and you make a big splash and you make a move and you make the statement saying, "Hey, we are selling. We're not going to go for playoffs. We need to sell."
Right now, we would select 8th overall, and then with that Rangers pick, currently it would go to the Rangers.
Yeah.
But still, like, you could have 2 top 16 picks.
But I'm going to say this. I remember Ottawa got a pick from San Jose that was the mystery box pick, and everyone hated it at the time. So if the Rangers, if the Rangers are bottom 13, and the Rangers, like you said, they could be bad next year.
Yeah.
You could be looking at a top 10 pick, potentially.
Exactly. I really don't know because, like, you obviously got to look at the offseason. There's going to be a lot of things that change. But again, we said, like, we really don't know what the Rangers are going to be next year. Like, we kind of, maybe with Miller, they will be better, but I still really don't know. So Pittsburgh puts themselves in a really good spot. Let's go back to Vancouver.
Yeah.
They get Marcus Pettersson. That defense core is terrible. Outside of, I would say, Quinn Hughes and Hronek. So getting a guy there, Pettersson, that can fit in probably on your second pairing, I think is a great pool there.
Yeah. Like the defense core, like defensive depth's been a struggle for Vancouver this season, especially. You just said, defensive like Desharnais not working out for them.
I mean, you could have told us at the beginning of the season that Derek Forbort and Vinny Desharnais as your third pairing was not going to work out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But yeah,
first pairing right now because Quinn Hughes is hurt.
That's true. But I like the move of Vancouver. You bring in Marcus Pettersson, who I assume they're going to try and re-sign.
They would probably fight heaven and earth. I would say he's the number one defenseman on the market.
Probably,
least.
Yeah.
Argue Provorov's better. Like, it's a very weak defensive market right now for trades. So.
Yeah, and then I like it. Like going back, so in the whole Miller fiasco, first before I get to that, they had that pick for like less than 3 hours.
Yeah, and that's funny because I feel like Vancouver has never had like a first round pick, never had so much draft capital. As long as I can remember, like watching the team, they never had more than just their own first overall pick. They love to trade draft picks.
They do.
They love to trade their future all the time. And I was not surprised in the slightest.
I wasn't surprised either. And do you remember? I think we talked about this earlier, off camera, how I think 2 years ago they traded for Hronek, and they used the draft pick they got from the Bo Horvat trade from the Islanders.
Yeah, so they traded Horvat to the Islanders, which looked like an awful move at the time for New York. I was watching Mike Bartner's video on it a couple of days ago. And they traded that. They got the Islanders' first round pick. They then flipped it to Detroit for Hronek, and then Hronek looked incredible last year. Excuse me, but the Red Wings with that pick actually selected Axel Sandin Pellikka.
So also here's a funny tidbit: the Canucks chose JT Miller over Bo Horvat, and now they have neither of them.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Not a great look by Alvin and management. But again, I think when you look at it right now, you probably win this trade, in my opinion, in the long term, unless if the Rangers make the playoffs and they go on some kind of miracle cup run. But
yeah, like the Rangers, after getting Miller looked good on the Rangers, but the Rangers just still don't look good as a team.
Yeah, so I mean, Miller did come in there. I think he scored 2 goals. But they lost to the Bruins. They did beat the Knights the next day, though. So I don't know. It's like I feel like the Rangers have definitely gotten a lot better since we talked about their fall off. But I still feel like it's really night and day with that team. Still at this point in the season. Let's move on from Vancouver and Pittsburgh and all that good stuff. Let's get into the Flyers trade that happened. The Calgary Flames acquired forward Joel Farabee, forward Morgan Frost from the Flyers in exchange for forward Andrei Kuzmenko, forward Jacob Pelletier, a 2025 second, and a 2028 seventh. LeBlanc, I'll let you talk about this first.
It's one of those for Nordic. It's one of those "where were you" moments.
I was driving home from hockey practice.
I was at the Caps Sens game very period. So we were like, Kuzmenko's getting traded to the Flyers. 1, 2, 4, and then we got on the bus like Joel Farabee.
Yeah, we didn't know the return from Philly. We knew that Kuzmenko and Pelletier were going back the other way. I'm like, we're probably trading somebody. I actually thought we were going to trade our first round pick or one of our 3 first round picks. I was like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. And then this was the return.
So for Philly, I see the vision of Philly. I see these two guys are guys who, I'll be honest, Frost has struggled in Philly in the past. Farabee was one of the key guys who has been in trade rumors in the past couple years.
Yeah.
This is me from an outside perspective. I'm not in the Philly market. I don't know with the media in the Philly market, but like I see it as this: these two guys aren't part of your future. You don't have to pay them now. You're going to get that cap space back.
Yes. So that is the positive from a Philadelphia perspective. They move on from Farabee's pretty not great contract. It's like 5.5 until like 2028 or something like that. And for the way that Farabee's been playing, I don't think he's worth 5.5 million until 2028. So yeah, I think from that perspective, it's a good deal. I think right now though the Flames win it. Just because they get two, like I would argue, second line forwards for an expiring player, a guy with an okay ceiling, and a second round draft pick. I'm not even going to include the seventh because that's like years from now. But yeah, from a fan perspective, like it really was sad because like those guys have been Flyers my entire life, like literally like almost my entire existence of watching the sport. And it's just sad to see, but I get it from the Flyers' end, but they better start freaking scoring. They've been shut out in 3 games in a row, so I really don't know what is coming of them at this point.
Yeah, you look at the return, Kuzmenko has not been good this year. Like, I can't stress to you how much Kuzmenko has not been it. And then I like Jacob Pelche. I think he has potential, but also he's like these are 4 guys who honestly needed a change of scenery.
Yeah, this is one of those deals where I'm like, yeah, I totally get why. I hope Kuzmenko will fit in well with Michkov. Neither of them can even get into the States. They're both still on visas. Like they're having visa trouble entering from Canada. So they didn't even play against Colorado on Sunday. They might not even play tomorrow against Utah or today against Utah when you see this. So I really don't know. But yeah, I think if you can get Kuzmenko, like I hope that Kuzmenko and Michkov works out really well because in Kuzmenko's rookie season, he had 74 points. Like I'm hoping that maybe alongside a teammate in Michkov that he dominated with in St. Petersburg, like I'm hoping that maybe that will shift things and maybe make Michkov and Kuzmenko better because it's been a bad year for both of those players.
Yeah, and Kuzmenko, I'll give him this. Like he scored 39 goals his first season with the Canucks, but I'll be honest, he was playing with Elias Pettersson.
Yeah, it looks more and more like
pigeon. I don't want to say pigeon, but but yeah, if you put him with Michkov, I think they could get some chemistry because you said they're former teammates in St. Petersburg. Yep. I feel like that there's something there, but Torch is going to be like, if I just see one Michigan in practice, I'm gonna rain fire down.
I think Torts is on the clock. I think his days might be numbered.
I agree with you. Like I think we said this before. He's a rebuild. He's a coach that shouldn't be a coach during a rebuild.
Yes, he is the right coach, wrong time, as I've been saying for years. I still like when they signed him initially, I was frustrated about it, and I still kind of am to this day. So I really hope they let go of him very, very soon.
Would you be?
And some people disagree, but I don't get
why.
Would
you be opposed if they put Torts in management?
No, because I think Torts is a good mind, but I don't think he should be the coach of this team. I just don't.
Okay, that's fair.
I don't believe that. The thing is though, they aren't going to fire him mid-season. They might fire him at Four Nations. I doubt it though. They still have a lot of wins where they're close to the playoff line, and they're going to yeah. But I think that it's likely going to be something that we see during the playoffs when Philadelphia is not in the playoffs. By the way, it's like when you see a lot of the time, you'll see some coaches who are fired at the end of the season. I think it's going to be one of those instances at the very least.
Yeah.
I can't see them
No, I feel like especially if Philadelphia manager like, hey, we're not going over towards. Why don't we just play out the year? If we'll play out the year, and if it's bad, we can fire him, and we'll get a better draft pick.
Well, Arizona did something similar. Well, I guess now Utah, but when they were Arizona, they did something similar with Rick Tocchet. They let his contract run out, and then let him go in free agency, like in the weird 2021 bubble, weird ass division year or whatever.
Yeah,
I still can't get over how weird that year was, but they did that year to see like, oh, is this team going to contend? And then at the end of the season, they sold everyone off and went full tank rebuild mode the following season. I personally think that might be what we see with Philadelphia. I can't take another 5 years, but I mean, LeBlanc's going on 9 or 8, so
seven. Let's
going on 700 years since he's last seen his team. So I guess I can wait a little bit longer.
I mean, Buffalo fans going on year 13 or 14.
14, 15. Who the hell knows at this point? All right, moving on from that little bit of a tangent that we went on. We got one more trade. The Dallas Stars acquired forward Mikael Granlund and defenseman Cody Ceci from the San Jose Sharks in exchange for a 2025 first-round pick and a conditional fourth-round pick, which upgrades to a third if Dallas makes the Stanley Cup final. I like this deal for San Jose. Honestly, they get a first-round pick. It's a later first-round pick, but it's likely going to be a first. And then that fourth, if they make the finals, it turns into a third. So you can't really hate that. From the Dallas perspective, I like Granlund, but Cody Ceci, I don't know.
I actually have the opposite opinion of you.
Oh, really?
For once, I know, right? I know, right? I feel like Dallas did pretty good. You get Mikael Granlund, who's going to be a good third liner for the Dallas Stars, behind Matt Duchene at center, with Jamie Benn on his wing. I think that's going to work wonders. Defensemen this year on the market, there's not a lot of defensemen out there. So I think Jim Neal thought heading closer to the deadline, Ceci's probably going to be a hot commodity. Might as well get him. Also, you are down Miro Heiskanen week to week. You are down Nils Lundkvist for the rest of the year. Your defensive depth is very thin, so might as well go get a Cody Ceci to play on the third pairing.
Yeah, you got a good point there. I think a lot of people just looked at it and was like, "Oh my God, Cody Ceci." Granlund though does make a lot of sense. He's had an incredible year with San Jose. He's really rejuvenated himself. I just hope that they don't re-sign him to a crazy weird ass extension.
I think Granlund's a pure rental, and I think Ceci's probably in the last year of his deal. I'm pretty sure.
It's probably I would be shocked if they traded a first for Ceci, who was he's on his last year. I'd be shocked if they traded him for if Ceci had term. So I think that it's a good move for the Stars. But I guess, Ceci might be one of your better options. Unless if we see something similar to Mikko Rantanen and we see a defenseman with term get traded. But that I can't really think of any defenseman who would get traded that has real term.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm trying to...
Jones? Oh my God. That's Edmonton for a first. Holy crap. I would lose my mind. I want to give some credit where it's due. I want to give some credit to the New York Islanders. The Islanders made some signings and some trades over the last week to strengthen up their blue line with league minimum, little to no risk, but decently high reward players. Let's go through them here. So we talked about D'Angelo last week. He signed a 1-year $775K deal with the Islanders. But then this past week, they got Scott Perunovich for a conditional 2026 fifth from the St. Louis Blues. Was a guy who just didn't work out with the Blues, prior Hobey Baker winner. And then they picked up Adam Boquist off of waivers from the Florida Panthers. And the Isles, with players who we thought really weren't that big of ceiling guys, they have all come to the Islanders and have been really effective. They have all been very good. I think Boquist has been great playing on that second or third pairing with Noah Dobson being out. D'Angelo has looked good on the offensive side of things. Defensively, it's a little bit suspect. And then getting a guy like Perunovic, who was a more defensive lockdown type guy who just needed a change of scenery. Like, those three signings have really worked out. And again, like, maybe it's just over a small sample size, but I think what you're getting from like 3 league minimum players, I really do think it is a good thing that they've done. And I kind of just went a little bit of a tangent here. LeBlanc, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think bringing in D'Angelo it's a high risk, high reward thing. We know the stories about D'Angelo and his antics. Perunovic, guy, like you said, former Hoy Baker Award guy who I was previously very high on many years ago, just didn't work out. And I think change of scenery could do well for him. Getting Boquist, though, I think that's a big wing. I was really pissed about that because I wanted the Senators to pick up Boquist. But yeah, and I think that's a great move. And they kind of, they had some injuries on the blue line, and they kind of rebuilt the blue line.
Yeah, on it in the span of like a couple of days with league minimum guys. I think that is impressive from Lou. Now, I really hope that they don't decide to go and buy at the trade deadline and go out and get they go out and trade for, I don't know, like somebody with like a term and sign them to a big contract again. I hope so. But they've gotten themselves back into the playoff race. You got to give them credit where it's due. I think that they've done that for sure. Yeah. So they were one of the teams that trended over.
Yeah, but Lou Lamoriello was on some franchise mode shit.
Yeah, he for sure, 100%. Brandon Saad signed a 1-year, $1.5 million extension deal with the Vegas Golden Knights. He was terminated by the St. Louis Blues this last week. I respected what he did though, because he basically was put on waivers by the Blues to go to Springfield. And Saad was like, "Listen, I don't want to play in Springfield. I want to be an NHLer. I know I can play. I've made a lot of money in my career. Please let me terminate my contract and go somewhere else." And the Blues were like, "Okay." And he goes to Vegas on a 1-year, $1.5 million deal. I don't hate it. It's a low risk, high reward type deal in my opinion. I think Saad still brings something. I will say this though, when he's not scoring, he's not doing a lot out there. But I still think it's kind of a low risk signing in my opinion.
I don't like the signing because I don't like Vegas. But other than that,
from fan perspective, do you like this deal?
It's a good signing because Saad could be a good third liner for any contender.
Yeah.
And you get to bring him in for not at that 4.5, but at that 1.5. So you're getting a good deal.
I thought he was going to be a little bit less, but I guess there was a lot of interest on the market. It's like
yeah.
Like that's why he got a little bit more than he probably should have.
I'm surprised he didn't go to Edmonton. I'm really surprised he didn't go to Edmonton because I feel like they were considered the favorite to sign him.
Well, also there's Stan Bowman. So
yes.
It's funny because the Oilers, I saw a tweet that like the Oilers have like made a living off of just league minimum signings of guys that have just been dropped and have come to them. So it would have not surprised me at all. Logan, well, speaking of waivers, let's go into this first. Philipp Grubauer was waived by the Seattle Kraken on purpose of going to the Coachella Valley Firebirds. Yeah, LeBlanc, this is probably one of the worst signings we've seen in recent history. Grubauer was signed to I don't have the exact numbers of the contract. Grubauer was signed to a 6-year, $4.75 million deal. That has aged like absolute milk. Grubauer has not had above a .900 save percentage since coming to the Kraken and signing that contract. Remember, that's coming after the Vezina year with Colorado, where he kind of got carried to the Vezina. That was such a mid-year because that was when Fleury was in the Vezina finals, and so was Grubauer. It was bad. But like ever since then, he's had pretty awful numbers. So
I remember when he was a free agent. I think it was the year before Colorado won their cup too, and Colorado's like, "Oh, they have to sign him, because they're desperate." And he took that as leverage to get a contract from another team, and it worked. And ever since he signed that contract, it's just been a disaster.
Yes. So he's played 4 seasons of that 6-year deal. .889, .895, .899, and a .886.
Grubauer had, I think in the year they made the playoffs, he had a decent year. He wasn't great though, still.
Yeah, that was the year, 2.85 goals against, was 17, 14, and 4, a .895. So again, like he was below average.
Yeah, like
even in the year they made the playoffs, it wasn't Dackard.
Decor was their backup. That was first year as their backup.
What the heck? Who else played games? He only played 39. Who else played games for the Kraken that year?
Did Drieger end up playing games for them?
I'm about to find out. Martin Jones.
Yes,
oh my God,
Martin Jones.
Oh, I forgot about Jones. Yeah, Dackard played 5 games that year. That was when he really broke in. But I guess Jones was there. Oh my God, I forgot about Jones.
Yeah,
he was.
Going back to Grubauer, he's going to be a buyout candidate for sure. I'd be honestly shocked if they don't buy him out.
For sure. I got to be honest, like, we talked about it a little bit. I don't know if it was on here or the Nordcast, but I think Ron Francis should be fired this offseason.
I think
we've done it terrible.
I've been tooting that horn for a bit now that Francis has signed awful contracts. He's made awful decisions, not great trades. Ron Francis in a second chance kind of blew it.
The only good move that I can think of that he's made in the last 12 months is the Capo Caco trade.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only deal that looks good right now. Everything else just looks
meh.
Bad. Meh to bad.
Yeah.
Actually, no, the Dackard signing looks good. That's the only other thing.
Yeah. The Cord signing, yeah.
The Cord, yeah.
Yeah, you always say Dackard.
I don't know why I say it like that. It's just how I'm programmed. It's like, there used to be another player that I used to say his name wrong all the time. It was somebody on the Sens that you used to get so mad at me about for how I'd say his name. Anyways.
Zub.
Logan Thompson signed a 6-year, $5.85 million extension with the Washington Capitals. Unlike Grubauer's contract, that's a good contract. I love that deal. Insane value for the Capitals.
I'm going to play the devil's advocate here. Goalies are voodoo.
Uh-oh.
Here's the thing. Thompson's having a fantastic year. Is this a flash in the pan, though? Because I think it's a good contract. I think it's going to be a good signing for Washington. I want to put that in before I play devil's advocate. But we see goalies one year, they're fantastic. Next year, they're not fantastic.
Well, could I see him falling down to earth a little bit? Yeah. I think that for that to happen, for me to play the devil's advocate with you, I would need to see, I would need to know, if in prior years, he wasn't good. In prior years, though, he has been solid.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like he was bad the last couple of years. If he was bad and pulled, like a Grubauer, for example, who was kind of mad for a couple of years and then had that good year of Colorado and then signed that deal, then, yeah, I could say it. But I feel like for Thompson, he's been still good, though, with the Golden Knights prior and with the Caps. Will he get a little bit worse? Yeah, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think it's a good. If he falls down, it'll be falling back down to probably average, not bad.
So he had a .9, 14 and 19 games played in 21-22. He played 37 games in 22-23 at a .915, 46 games played last year at a .908, and then this year a .924. So maybe he falls back down to a .910, but even then, LeBlanc, I still think that contract is good. He needs to be above average for that deal to look good.
Yeah, I like I said, I'm playing devil's advocate because it's fun to play devil's advocate. But but I think it's a good sign for Washington. They locked down their goalie, and they're trying to lock down their backup goal. Well, their tandem, as you say, in Lindgren too.
Yeah. So I heard on, I think it was Friday when the Miller stuff was going on, that Charlie Lindgren may sign a $3 million to $4 million extension as well. So it looks like they might keep that tandem. So we'll have to see. And I think that's it for signings and things like that. Do you want to talk about the Utah stuff, or do you want to get into Ryan Hartman?
You can go Utah first.
Okay. So Utah over this last week revealed the final 3 names for their new logo and jersey, or logo / jersey name thing. So it's the Utah Mammoth, the Utah Outlaws, and the Utah Hockey Club. They actually revealed the logos too. We're gonna put them on screen here. I gotta be honest, they look like EASHL logos.
One of them does, yes. I don't think the other one's
Which one does?
the Outlaws.
The Outlaws, it's funny because it looks like an N97 HL logo. It looks like one of those logos I used for that league I did for 1 year.
I feel like the logos are not like a finished product though. Like they're gonna like have touch ups on them. They're like I don't think it's finalized. But like they're
You know what's funny though? You know what's funny? The Utah Hockey Club option, you know that logo looks like a Yeti?
it does. Well, it's supposed to be a Yeti.
Isn't that funny?
It's
Like-
it's the Yeti head with the mountains of Utah in the back.
Yeah, so I don't think it's named Hockey Club. I
Which-
lean probably Mammoth or Outlaws.
Which here's the thing. The Yeti logo they have, I was mentioned this by somebody in one of my group chats. It's quote a ripoff of the Minnesota Wild logo.
Ooh, hang on. Ooh.
Because you know how the Wild is a bear?
Yeah. Actually, well, yeah, you're kind of right, but it's not like it is a ripoff. It's not like copying.
Yeah, it's not copying, but it's like, they have the same concept. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm looking at the Wild logo right now while looking at it. Yeah, I can totally see it. It's just like face the other way, and instead of the trees in the middle, it's mountains.
Mhm.
I totally get that.
Like,
from
the
that.
logo for the Utah Hockey Club, I think that's the best logo of the bunch, but I really do think it's going to be Mammoth.
I think it's probably going to be Mammoth too. I like the logo though for Mammoth. I think it's still nice. Outlaws is just so basic. Like we knew it with like if it's Outlaws, it's going to be a cowboy with a bandana. Like what are we doing?
Yeah.
So let's get in the Ryan Hartman. We do not know the exact amount of games that Hartman is going to be suspended. We were really hoping that it was going to be right when we were recording or while we are recording, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. But Ryan Hartman is getting a hearing on. He was supposed to get a hearing today on his play on Tim Stutzler of the block. Do you want to walk us through the play since you're a Sens fan?
I was at the game. I was on the. So when I didn't see it. I saw him go down, but I thought, he must have went down. The play was on the other side, of the rink, so I didn't really get a good look at it. But basically, they go for the face-off. Stutzler puts back. Hartman gets above him, puts his elbow into behind his head, and drives him down into the ice. And Stutzler's helmet pops off, and he's bleeding. It's a clear intent to injure. It's a clear dirty play.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah, it's definitely dirty. It's just a matter of how many games is it going to be. He did get offered an in-person hearing, so it has the option to be more than 5 games. It is being held via Zoom, though, so that is the thing. I still think it can still be more than 5, right, if it's still Zoom. It's just a matter of
I know. It's because because I was like, oh, you have to come to New York. Like, well, it snows and the weather's bad.
Yeah, you got to come to New York, and where is Minnesota going?
Minnesota's in Boston right now.
Okay, then I guess you could go home. You could go to New York, but I don't know if Hartman really wanted to go to New York. So they're holding it via Zoom. We don't know the exact amount of games, but LeBlanc, if you were to predict how many games it would be,
5.
what would you say?
5.
It's 5?
I repeat offender, so I could see more, but I expect at least 4.
Oh, it has to be at least 4, in my opinion. I think you could see upwards of 7.
I could see that too because he's a repeat offender, but I think 5. It's gonna be 5. For me, I'm gonna say 5 because I know how player safety is. It's probably gonna be 5.
I'm trying to think. What was the other time that he got suspended?
He got suspended for the Cole Perfetti thing. I'm pretty sure, didn't he?
Gotta find out. He was suspended 3 games for that Perfetti hit about a year ago. I forgot about that.
So it's been you're a repeat offender for an entire year. So he could have gotten off without a repeat offender plus if he this was like next week.
No, you still get suspended for that.
No, you should get suspended, but like the repeat offender makes your sentence longer.
Oh, 100%. I think though, like let me ask you this question. When is like the cutoff for like repeat offender, but let's say like you did something like 8 years. It's like Connor McDavid. Like let's say you did something 8 years.
According to the league, the cutoff is 1 year.
Oh.
But for me, I think if you're a repeat offender, you should have that. If you should, and you've done multiple suspensions within the past like 2 years, I think that it should be a 4 year thing. Like if you are a dirty player, and you're a repeat offender, you should be held accountable because here's the thing: if you're a repeat offender, it means quote you don't learn your lesson.
Yeah. Like, look, there are some guys who play in the NHL for, like, 10 years. I get it from a perspective, like, let's say you get suspended for something you do in your rookie year, like, kind of like McDavid, and then you do something bad, like, 8 or 9 years later, then I get it, like, okay. Like,
and it shouldn't affect you, though.
Like, things like that, there are sometimes where there are plays where, like, you may not intentionally do it, and you still get suspended. Like, trying to think of an example. The Ryan Reeves hit. I don't know the Reeves hit, but that's me just speculating. But again, like, I don't think you should get punished for that amount if it's like that far apart. But for Hartman, I think you definitely should. I think it's gonna probably be 5 or 6. I could see it go to 7. It's probably going to be 5 because like the last time we've seen a like lengthy ass suspension was Matt Rempe a couple of weeks back. But yeah, I really do believe that it's likely going to be a 6-game suspension in my opinion. So yeah, that's it for that. Was there anything else that you wanted? Oh, you wanted to talk about the booing.
Yes. Not to get political, but we all know about the tariffs that have come into effect.
And they have come to a pause, right?
They come to a pause today, yes. But in Ottawa, when I was at the game on Saturday, I saw on Reddit there was a thing to boo the national anthem. I did not partake in the set booing of the national anthem because I just think it's not very respectful. It's not very classy. But it was done in Ottawa. It was done in Calgary, a conservative stronghold in Canada. It was done in Toronto the next day. And it was done in Vancouver last night.
Yeah. What is your input on it?
Honestly, the more I talk about it, the more I feel like it's kind of justified. But at the same time, here's the thing. At the same time, I think Canadians are very protective about protecting our country and what's good for our country. And then when someone tries to come in and make things harder for us, we're obviously not going to be happy.
I am going to say something for a lot of things that I say in things with politics. And LeBlanc, don't take this personally.
Oh, I don't. No worries.
I don't care. Like I'm going to be completely blunt. Like I don't. It doesn't really matter to me that much. If you want me to be honest, I get why they're booing. I totally get it because I don't want to get political, but I understand where they are coming from with this as an American because I'm American, LeBlanc's Canadian, so we both probably have differing opinions, possibly, but like I get where they're coming from, and I really do think that it is on a level justified. And, you know, for Canada, like, I hear a lot from you about how, you know, like, it's kind of so divided with the things going on with Trudeau and a lot of the parties that are in Canada, because it's a lot different than the United States. There's, like, 40 million different... Well, there's only really, like, 2 or 3.
There's 3 main parties, yeah.
So, it is kind of good to see, like, a country kind of uniting under each other for things like this, even if it's under these certain kind of circumstances. So, I give credit to that from that perspective, but to be honest with you guys, like that might be an unpopular opinion coming from me, but I just don't really care.
Yeah, the one good thing to come of this is that now, like we're all united as Canada now. Like everyone's like all like united now. It's very hard to get liberals and conservatives to like come together on something. and that's
especially in this day and age for any country.
Yeah, and that's one thing that's really like I don't think I've ever seen it. I don't know if they're gonna keep booing going forward because I know tonight in Nashville they briefly booed the Canadian national anthem. It was very faint, but they did boo. This might be something we see come up at the Four Nations too when we have Canada versus U.S., especially when the games are in Montreal and Boston.
If this like does continue, it's gonna be funny in the Four Nations though. Like like Canada versus USA game, like that could get fierce. It's always been fierce, but like especially with like what's going on,
yeah.
Kind of hockey, like it could, and I'm all for it. I think that would be fun, unless if we go to war, that'd be very weird.
That'd be awkward. That'd be very awkward. Yeah.
I don't really know if we could do this podcast.
Welcome to the Nord podcast. LeBlanc is being a freaking traitor.
LeBlanc's out fighting in war right now.
But yeah, like hopefully it doesn't come to that. But yeah.
No, it wouldn't come to
and
that,
I feel like as well we look at like American players on the Canadian teams. I think everyone understands they're not booing them. It's about what's going on. And I think there was an interview today I was with Mike Johnston saying how, the American players, they know why it's happening, and like some of them just really don't care, or they're not educated enough to comment on it.
Well, first off, some of them probably agree with why they're booing.
Mm-hmm.
And as well as that too, like some of them are like me, they just don't really
they don't care, yeah.
Politics. Like, so a lot of people don't like that stuff.
And
generally.
And the one thing I would always say is that like I'm one person who like let's keep politics out of sports. Like, and this is one thing that is coming back that is now a part of like this is probably going to keep happening I think at least for the next 2 to 3 weeks.
You think it's going to continue even with the tariffs pause?
They're paused for 30 days. So if they get unpaused, I feel like they're still going to be booing. We'll see what happens, but it's a story to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah. I mean, like, what's the worst that comes out of this? Like, are they going to stop playing the anthem at games?
That'd be super weird. Or they do the IHF thing where let's play the national anthem after the game's over.
Yeah. After everyone's already leaving. I saw Rick Westhead tweet something out about this today. I'm going to read that tweet real quick. Westhead, journalist for the Sports Network, has covered a lot of interesting topics and is honestly like a pretty very reliable source for things that aren't like entirely hockey. So Westhead tweeted today that there is tensions over, so I'll just read the whole tweet. Quote, as tensions over the trade war between the U.S. and Canada escalate, a senior official with a Canadian NHL team told him that there are no plans to stop performances of the national anthem before games, following several incidents of Canadian fans booing at the Star Spangled Banner. However, the official said that they may expect some teams to pause for the time being the use of young singers who might be rattled by the negative fan reaction.
Yeah, and you saw in Ottawa the singer. She looked like she was in her like early 20s, and like she didn't seem rattled by it. And after she had a buddy who works for the team, she actually got to talk to the singer. Like they weren't booing. It's like, oh yeah, no, I know.
Yeah, so I get it from that perspective. Like if there's like it'd be funny if there's like a 10-year-old girl singing the national anthem at an NHL game, and all of a sudden you hear boo.
Yeah.
Like, I get that, but again, like I think like a lot of people, like you'll be educated enough to know that they're not booing you. And again, that the same can be said for like the American players. And it's kind of the same thing like with Russia. Like, oh my God, who was on the press right? Anyways. It's the same thing for like Russia and Belarus. Like there may be some people who like really don't like Russia right now, but I don't really think like the general consensus of people might not like hate Russian players.
Yeah. Like
it depends. It varies, but still.
Yeah, I think everybody knows what's going on here, and I think that's where we're going to leave it at that. I think we're going to move on.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. It is something to follow, though. We'll keep it going in the next couple of days or weeks.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
Is there anything else that you wanted? I do want to talk about Finland. Team Finland of the Four Nations.
Okay.
LeBlanc, they are cooked. They are absolutely cooked.
Team Finland lost a lot of good players, and now they don't look like they're. I honestly, if they lose every game, I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised at all either. So, do you know all of the players that they do not have right now?
I know they don't have Miro Heiskanen, Yanni Hakanpää, and I think there's some more. I can't put a name to a face right now.
Well, first off, they don't have William Karlsson either. Karlsson's out for the tournament. Ricard Raquel is coming in to replace him, which has been a good player this season, but still you're losing William Karlsson. You also might be losing. Some people don't know this. You might be losing Ristolainen too. Like they might be because I think Risto is injured. I'm pretty sure, so he might get ruled out for the Four Nations as well. It's not official yet, but yeah, I think we might see something really come of that. Like it is bad for that Finland team, and it's already a Finland core that is just so weak.
Yeah. We went over this earlier in a past episode where we said Finland is the weakest team of Four Nations. Them being hindered by injuries is not helping that case.
Oh, 100%. When you look at like the season totals of active Finnish defensemen, a lot already it was very weak. Like we might see Urho Vakakainen or Ville Heinola, who have been like seventh defensemen or just guys who are
those are guys who can't get playing time on their own teams.
Yeah, and they might be on this Four Nations roster. So that was something that I really wanted to touch base on there real quickly. And then, was there anything else that you wanted to talk about? Because I think we covered everything.
We were talking about the next guys to get traded.
Yes, that is the next thing. But I meant about like news.
News. I don't think I have any other news.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you want to talk about the NBA trade,
we mean we had all these big trades, and the NBA is like, "Hey, hold my beer."
Look, we'll go into it a little bit. I don't follow the NBA. That should be very clear to people who have listened to the Nordcast for as long as they have. This is still one of the stupidest trades ever, in my opinion, for the Mavericks. For the Lakers, you get your future player. You get a future franchise guy. I'm not the biggest fan of Doncic because I think that he does have some issues with his game. But still, I really do believe that like the Lakers win this trade. And for, again, the Mavs, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
So for me, I follow the NBA mildly, but I still keep up.
More than me, that's...
Yeah, so I'm gonna play both sides of this. The Mavericks, you're trading away your 20. It'll be 26 next month, but you're trading away your cornerstone piece of your franchise.
Yep.
For a 32-year-old, who Davis is a very good player. You get one first round pick, and you get another. I don't remember who the other player they got back, and you get another player back. I understand that defense wins championships. Luka Doncic is a great offensive player. That man cannot play defense to save his life. And players who do not play defense are kind of liabilities on the court. And Anthony Davis can play defense, and he's a very, very good at playing defense. So if you're going from like a systematic mind point, then I get it. But this is still, you should have got way more. This is you could argue Luka's a top 6 player.
Yeah, it's honestly bigger than Rantanen, because like Rantanen was like a top 15 player, maybe top 10, but like Doncic is like, for some people, top 5.
There was this explain this in NHL terms. I think the best one I could come up with was Austin Matthews for a first and Mark Stone.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like Matthews, young, still relatively young, really good player, really good goal scorer. You're getting, and then like Mark Stone, like 31 years old, like injuries definitely riddle him a little bit. So yeah, that's a really good comparison, actually. I've seen that a lot. But yeah, we're talking about superstars. We're talking about stars around the NHL and all that. I wanted to bring up the question. Now that JT Miller is traded, who is the next star player that might find his way out of his team?
Are we
And I
talking?
asked the question, what?
Sorry, are we talking like deadline? Are we talking like this off season?
We could see a deadline. We could see it this offseason. Like, whoever we think might get traded relatively soon. I have a couple of names here to really get the ball rolling for you. So, JT Miller was one of the ones that I was going to bring out, but obviously he got traded. Elias Pettersson was the next one. Talk about P at the beginning.
Yeah, according to the media from Vancouver media, Pettersson is now off the trade block, but they might revisit it in the summer. But
so
here's the thing though. After the draft, on July 1st, Pettersson's no move clause kicks in. So if you're a team like Buffalo, and they were apparently in talks for Pettersson, you think Pettersson's going to say, "Yeah, I want to go to Buffalo."
Yeah. So, I think for that to happen, first off, you got to get a big return back the other way. It's got to be a Rantanen level return. Like maybe even it's got to be more than Rantanen because you're trading away a guy with term. And I also want to say that I think for what it would take, like Pettersson needs to struggle the whole way the rest of the season.
Yeah,
like,
if he gets back to form, the Canucks are not trading him.
Yeah, you can immediately shut that door.
And I also want to say this: Quinn Hughes is up in 2 years or 3 years. If you trade Pettersson, what message is that sending to Hughes? Rebuild, and he's not interested in doing that. So, my theory is if you trade Pettersson, you can basically kiss Hughes goodbye too.
Yeah, 100%. So, I think it's less likely to see him traded anyway. The next one, though, I wanted to ask was Artemi Panarin.
Panarin has a no-move clause. Panarin likes playing in New York, but obviously with playing in New York, there's a big ton of criticism.
Well, he is a free agent, he is a free agent next offseason. So could you see, like, if the Rangers are bad?
If they're bad next year, Panarin's going to be a hot commodity on the trade on the deadline. Next deadline.
Exactly. So I'm really wondering, like, could we see that happen? The other one that I was thinking of was Mitch Marner. Marner, I think, is a little bit less likely, but could you see the Maple Leafs moving on from him?
I don't see Marner moving on from the Leafs. I think Marner genuinely wants to stay. Genuinely, he's from there. He's not going to. I don't think he's going to take a discount though.
That is, yeah. I don't really think he should. Honestly, the cap's going up. I think he's having a great season.
Yeah. For me, I'm going to say this: the only way Toronto doesn't re-sign Martin is if they say, "Listen, we're not going to pay that for you. We're going to go in a different direction."
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only way I see Marner not being on the Leafs next year.
So yeah. Next one. What about Philip Forsberg?
Here's the thing: if Nashville bounces back next year, we're not having this conversation.
100%. Yeah, I agree. Forsberg, still on a longer term deal, but if they're
recently got extended though, didn't he? Like 2 years ago.
2 years ago. But I wonder if they're bad, could they move on from him?
There'd be a lot of suitors for a guy like Forsberg.
What about Roman Josi? 4 years left. It'll be 3 years by the time next season starts.
If they're going for a rebuild, I think he'd be one of the first pieces moved out.
I mean, he's 34, so you might as well get a return for him while you can. And unless if he comes to them and says, "No, I want to be in Nashville. I'm probably the best player that's ever played here."
Yeah, and like, tonight's actually Josi. He passed his leg one for most games played as a Pred all time.
Yeah, I saw that. That's pretty awesome. Next one, I'll go there. What about Brady Tkachuk?
Lucky, you know what I'm doing under my desk right now? I'm flipping you the double bird right now. Um,
Well, I'm trying to think, LeBlanc. Like I'm trying to think of like guys who have been in talks before. Like I personally don't think it happens.
I don't think it happens. Like, here's the thing. Here's the thing. If Ottawa makes playoffs this year, we're probably not having this conversation.
We are no, not probably. We are not having this
Yeah.
conversation.
If Ottawa misses playoffs this year and they miss next year, then I could see him requesting a trade. But I think if Ottawa's competitive though, I don't see him requesting out. He's always said he always wants to be a Senator. He never said he's never mentioned leaving. He's never mentioned wanting to play somewhere else. Never mentioned that he doesn't like living in Ottawa. He praises the city, praises the organization so much. I don't see it happening.
Exactly. Yeah. I only brought him up because I wanted to make you mad, and I think that it also it still is a discussion. Like it still isn't impossible. But I think if Ottawa makes the playoffs this year, like I even think like if they miss, like I like this year, like they took a massive step this year. I think Kachuk will see that and be like, yeah, I want to stay here still. But if they miss next year, like you said, then I could totally see.
Yeah, because the thing of it, like Kachuk, he wants to play in the playoffs, and I think if once we get to the next 2 years, I think he's going to be 27 at that point, 27, 28
After next season,
after 2 seasons. So we're going 2 years down the road.
yeah, 27, 28.
Yeah, so he'll be 27, 28. I think then he's gonna, yeah, like, and I get it, but I just if Ottawa is competitive and like I'm just missing like by like 1 or 2 points, like I think he'll stay.
Well, like I'm gonna be honest with you, like I'm sure you are tired of hearing this because you've been hearing this for years at this point. That Kachuk
We've been
traded, and there's really no backup behind it. Like apart from what, oh my God, was it Larry Brooks who said that? Like I mean, like there wasn't even really any backup to that. So like I don't think like at least right now there is nothing backing up the fact that Kachuk's gonna get traded. I still stand by that. Like I don't think that that's gonna happen.
Yeah, I don't either. But if I'm looking at guys like in situations that like they don't really want to be in, what about a guy like Nazem Kadri?
I don't really think that he's like a star.
He's not a star player, but he's a guy who has, he has some weight to him.
So I'm gonna say this: the Calgary Flames came out a couple weeks ago. They said that Rasmus Anderson, Mackenzie Weegar, and likely Nazem Kadri, like they're gonna probably
which I don't really.
Well, Kadri's on like a
I know he's still 5 years left, but like those are guys who like they're not going to trade away. They're not, which I don't really agree with. But guys, what about a guy like Jared McCann?
Yeah, if we're talking about like good players on their individual teams, I think McCann might be one because again, like he is on a little bit of a shorter term deal, only $5 million. I think for a guy still 28 years old, leads the team in points. I think that wouldn't be a bad idea. In hindsight,
yeah, I'm trying to think of other teams real quick. I
got a couple.
Like,
Sidney Crosby.
There's and I think we've said this almost every episode. Crosby cares about his legacy as a Penguin more than he cares about winning another cup.
Yeah, but I wanted to bring him up
I know, and I feel like if Crosby is open to a trade, I think Colorado is sniffing all over that.
Well, if I have to hear Biz say Crosby to the Avalanche one more time, I might lose my mind.
You know what would be crazy?
Oh.
If Crosby somehow got to Edmonton.
God forbid. He is on an $8.7 million. Why'd you speak that into existence? Why'd you do that? Why did you do that? Oh my God. What about? I was thinking about I was looking through guys who are expiring players coming up. What about a guy like Kyle Connor? We are pissing off everyone.
We're pissing off all the fan bases. This is why no one likes us.
True.
Kyle Connor, if Winnipeg is winning, I don't see them trading him. I don't see him requesting a trade. Unless Connor's I don't want to play in Winnipeg anymore. I don't see him requesting out.
Okay. I actually have two oh my God, we missed so many. I have three more here and then we'll wrap up. Let's go there. Well, let's start off with Jack Eichel first. What about Eichel? What do you think?
It's a good situation in Vegas. I can't really say. I could see him leaving via free agency more than I see him being traded.
Yeah, he's a free agent in 2026. He's 28. He could get so much money, but
on the market, you're looking at like 13 million probably.
Exactly. So I don't know. What about? And this is one we should have talked about from the start. What about Kirill Kaprizov? That's a really interesting.
That's an interesting one because let's say the Wild aren't great, and Kaprizov won't or if Kaprizov says he's not resigning, I could see them trading him. I could see it.
That's gonna come out though, and they're not gonna get a good return, and that's gonna be a good enough return. But again, I think no matter what, you're not.
You got to treat that like a Luka trade. Keep it under wraps. Keep it under wraps.
Yep, you cannot let anything slip out to the media or anything like that. And then we'll wrap up with the biggest one. We didn't really talk about any goalies. I didn't really think of any goalies, but we'll wrap up with the biggest one. Connor McDavid.
Like I said, I would see him leaving in free agency, but I feel like since Leon resigned, he's going to resign.
Yeah, I think that's another one of those cases. But there are so many people who think that McDavid's going to Toronto or McDavid's going to the Rangers or McDavid's going to all these other places.
Listen, Toronto, you either get Matthews or you get McDavid. You can't have both. You can't pay both.
No.
And the Rangers are just like throw money at anything that moves. Like just throw.
That's why they got Miller. They threw money at him.
This is why. So the Rangers are. I'm gonna sound like an old head here. The Rangers are the reason we have a salary cap.
I mean, yeah, that and the Canadians, but what's funny is like people forget like back in like the 60s and 70s, the Canadians would just pay teams like $50,000 in cash or like $100,000 in cash for picks.
And there was the Quebec rule where the Montreal Canadiens had the rights to the best player from Quebec in the draft year.
That was a rule.
That was a rule, and it was a rule for a very long time. I think I got reprimanded in the 70s.
Jesus Christ! I mean, to be fair, there was like 16.
Because it's like, oh, it's territorial rights.
That's like, oh my God, that's like Boston at the time saying we have entire control of this whole eastern region.
Yeah. Or like Detroit. We have the rights best player in Michigan and Windsor.
Oh my God. Yeah, people forget like back then, like the league was so much different. That's why the Habs were so good for so long.
Yeah, because they had, it's fun getting Guy Lafleur for free, It's fun getting Guy Lafleur.
Exactly. Like, what's fun and what people don't realize too is like Lafleur would have been on like the Golden Seals, like if it weren't for like that thing that happened. Like Lafleur was picked first overall by Montreal with that Seals pick.
Mm-hmm.
So again, but yeah, the league has changed a lot since then. I that went off on a whole tangent, but I think McDavid stays. I think that pretty much shows just how unserious that is. But McDavid stays.
Yeah,
yeah. Do you have any other ones you wanted to bring up?
I got nothing. You said all the ones I had, so.
Okay. Let's wrap this episode up of the Northern Block podcast. LeBlanc, it was a long one. Not the longest one, but it was a long one. Any final thoughts for this episode?
Four Nations coming up next week.
Oh, it is next week. Oh, I'm excited. I'm pumped. My final thought, my heart goes out to the people involved in the plane crashes in Washington and in Philadelphia. Just some terrible, terrible things that have gone on there. It has been a awful last couple of weeks, especially for the United States when it comes to those things. It's just been rough. I hope that my thoughts and prayers go out to everybody. And it's a very rough situation overall.
Yeah, I actually have one thing to add. I want to say we send our condolences to Sean Simpson. Sean Simpson was he was an Ottawa sports commentator. analyst. He was on a radio show for so long. He's one of the reasons I got into sports journalism at such a young age. I remember listening to him on the back when it was the Team 1200 and TSN 1200 for so many years, riding the car with my dad. And he's one of the reasons that and I got to meet him so many times, and my thoughts go out to his family and all of his everyone in the Ottawa community.
Yeah, it's terrible because I also really looked up to a guy like Simpson. LeBlanc, do you want to tell the story of how Simpson got you with TSN? Do you want to talk about that?
So he's one of the reasons I had an interview with TSN 1200 back in this is a couple years ago. I ended up not getting the job, but he stuck his neck out for me, and I always appreciate that.
Yeah, so just terrible. Again, like somebody that I looked up to, and I'm not even from Ottawa. Just a great person, and we lost a great person. So that's where we'll wrap up. Our thoughts go out to Simpson and everybody involved in the tragedies in Washington and Philly. But that is it for this episode of the Norton Block Podcast. Thank you for watching and listening. We really do appreciate it. We will be back with you next week, unless if there's another massive Mikko Rantanen trade. We almost made an emergency episode. I almost did, but then I didn't have time. I decided to play golf for friends with a full block. So that is it for this one. Thank you for watching and listening, and we will see you in the next one.
Ciao.
Let me flip this script. I feel privileged for all who can witness this. I am close to divine. Know the moment is mine, need an omen or sign. Providing a back sound to all the squares that ask around. Be getting it, my skills pay me. Trying to get a million, baby, with an adopted flow that God gave me. Me now. Tell whoever runners that they spot is temporary till I take it, it's mine. I'm selfish. Your will. Tell Miss I'm on my wealth tip. So when we cash out soon, I'm just investing. No yes men, I've been a legend since before mom and dad had me and was best friends. I chew through comp, don't test them. I chew on tracks cause after that I bless them. I just do what I do. You see me? I just do what I do. I